Hi everyone, it's Evelyn. I've got two dogs down here. They seem to be wanting to have a little bit of a dog fight, as you can see. Leela's the red one, Ezri's the blonde one. Normally you see Ezri in the camera because she sticks closer to me than Leela does. But apparently Leela's all over me today, and Ezri wants to be part of that. So anyway, today we're going to talk about my top 10 flowers of 2024. And, okay, come on. I gotta straighten my camera. Okay, no. Let me straighten my camera out. There we go. My top 10 flowers of 2024. And we're going to start with what blooms earliest in the season, which is going to be, oh, I'm just gonna move over so I can put it up on the screen here, which is going to be Highasence. Now, I do not sell Highasence as a cut flower. I sell it in 1 gallon pots. I've got a dog licked me on the face. I just put 3 bulbs in a pot, and when they bloom in the spring, they go out to my Flower Wagon. And they were a new to me flower for this year. They didn't make my list of new to me cut flowers because they're not a cut flower. I sell them as a potted plant, blooming, but as a potted plant. I won't sell them as a cut flower, because I find that when you cut a hyacinth, the scent, which is overpowering as it is magnified. I don't know how many times, but I find it an unbearably overpowering, sickly sweet smell. That's me personally. I know other people like the smell. So I don't even want to cut it and have it under my nose. I really cannot stand the smell. So I sell them in the pots. Now, some florists, maybe all florists, when they cut them to use in bouquets or arrangements, they actually pull them up bulb and all, and then they trim the bulb to give the extra length of stem to the hyacinth so that the stems are longer. And I don't know if that makes a difference to how overpowering the scent is. If you know, leave it in the comment section below, because that would be an interesting thing to find out. And I'm not going to trial it. Anyway, hyacinth was new to me this year. I hadn't grown hyacinths in pots before at all. I've done daffodils and tulips, but not the hyacinths. And they bloomed before the daffodils and tulips with just a little bit of an overlay on the daffodils, and I sold out. So they were a great success. They got my Flower Wagon going earlier, and I sold every last pot that I had, and they were profitable. So I will be continuing to grow hyacinths for as long as I have the Flower Wagon up on the road, because they were quite successful for me. Now I've got a picture here of how they look like when they're up on the road. So you can see I've got my Flower Wagon, but in the spring when I sell my 1 gallon pots of hyacinths, daffodils, or tulips, I attach a 3-step section on it so that I can put the pots on there. At the beginning of this year, I was selling dried flowers in the arrangements inside of the Flower Wagon, but it's the first rainy day, because when we put the Flower Wagon up on the road, it was nice, clear and sunny for a few days, and then we got some rain, and of course the dried flowers aren't going to do well in the rain, so I realized that wasn't a good idea. So I only had the dried flowers out there for a few days. Top shelf has either little flower arrangements in it, or vases, or little gifts at this time of year, because I don't have really anything else that's a flower. So that's how I sold them. They did fantastic. Definitely continuing with that, as I said. The next flower that makes my top 10 is going to be the daffodils, which follow right after the hyacinths. Now, the mistake I made with daffodils this year is whatever the word is that I decided to grow, which was Electris split cup narcissi, was a mistake. It was an expensive bulb. They were, I think, 95 wholesale. They were 95 cents each. I just decided to try it to see if I did an expensive bulb, whether that was going to be worth it or not. And the answer is no. I got to keep to a lower priced daffodil bulb for future years, as I did in previous years. But daffodils definitely have to make my top 10, because they bridge the gap from the hyacinths to what next comes blooming. Now, I sell the daffodils at the Flower Wagon exactly the same way as I sell the hyacinths, as you can see in this picture. I do sell tulips in pots as well. They are not going to make my top 10 list for 2024 simply because I didn't like the tulip I grew. Now the tulip that I grew is called Helmar Triumph, and it's a mid tulip versus early and late. And I thought I'd grow the mid tulip because it wouldn't come out at the same time as the daffodils. But I know that late ones always come out at the same time as mid ones. And I thought this would be really pretty with its deep maroon color and its deep yellow, except that's not what they looked like. They had a really, really pale yellow, much the same color as the daffodil. And the red that was in there was a brighter red, and it was minimal. So to me, it didn't look anything like the photos that I had seen. And I don't know if that's a product of my soil or what, but I wasn't happy with it at all, therefore it's not going to make my top 10 flowers of 2024. We'll see if the tulips that I ordered for next year will make my top 10 flowers. So that's the spring bulbs in pots. The next flower that has to make my top 10 is a stilbe, because not only is a stilbe great to use in bouquets, not as a focal, but as a filler, during the time period that it blooms, which is in June. But when very little else is blooming in the garden, such as this bouquet, which was I put together on May 21st, you can see I have dried astilbe in it. So I will use dried astilbe at the beginning of the bouquet season, as well as at the end of the bouquet season. Now this particular bouquet has red rhododendrons, which are available to me thanks to my neighbor because they hang over my fence. I also have the pine crest. Ooh, what is that maple tree called? I'm gonna have to put it up on the screen again. Just can't remember what that one's called. I don't even think it's pine crest. Definitely not pine crest. I'll put the maple tree up on the screen again because I just never remember. There's a couple of peonies in there, which are kind of a rosy blush tone. There's an allium poking out the top. And I think that's it because the leaves are part of the rhododendron, or there's also a peony leaf in there as well. And like I said, this bouquet was made on May 21st. The next bouquet I'm going to show you was taken on July 7th, and it was taken just as the astilbes were starting to lose their color and get a little crispier. So this basically this bouquet lets me know, and you know, when the fresh astilbes went to, which was July 7th. And here I've got it paired with an allium that has also started to lose its color. That's why it looks a little bit more greeny white. They start off with that beautiful purple, but as they start to finish their season, they fade more to a greeny white before they go brown. I will still use them when they're greeny white because they just look like a white allium then, which you can buy and grow as well. I've got some sunflowers in here. I've got the white knight on the one side as well as the white light on the other. I've got a black button, bachelor button poking out on both sides, some green poppy pods, and some laurel leaves. And this next bouquet shows me using the dried astilbe in the, are we in the fall now? Yeah, we're in the fall because September 21st was the last day of summer. This bouquet I made on October 26th. And I've got the dried astilbe paired with the dried poppy pods, as well as laurel leaves. There's a Cornell bronze dahlia, a Petra's wedding dahlia, and a Yarra Falls dinner plate dahlia, as well as just poking up to the side, I have a snapdragon tucked in there as well. So that's astilbe. The next top 10 flower that we're going to talk about are peonies. Before we talk about the peonies, if you are enjoying this video and haven't joined our flower family yet, please consider taking a second and subscribing down below. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks very much in advance or after the fact. So normally I would say my favorite peony is the Bartella Ito peony. It's a stunner. It's really quite a big diameter flower. And I've never measured it. I should measure it or look it up. It's large and it's got a beautiful, beautiful yellow ruffle to it. So I really enjoy using it in bouquets. And the first bouquet I'm going to show you with it in it, you can see here I've got it paired with a couple of white ranunculus. I've got it paired with a large Globemaster Allium or Ambassador. I can't tell the difference between the Globemaster and the Ambassador. If I look at the dates, June 8th, still can't tell because that's about the time when the crossover is on them. Ambassador blooms first and then Globemaster. They look much the same. Their diameter and their full size is different. Globemaster is bigger. But in a photo in an arrangement, you can't tell which is the bigger one or the smaller one, so I can't tell the difference. Anyway, here I've got it also paired with snowberry branches and a few parsley umbels. Now you can see the Bartella has well within to the center of it a little bit of redness as well, which adds just a little hint of an extra color. And I mean, you can see there's not that much in this bouquet, but that Bartella holds the bouquet together with its dramatic, large, beautiful, ruffled yellow petals. And at that time of year, because again, we're talking about June 8th for this bouquet, that's pretty early in the year to have such a dramatic flower. Really, the only flower that adds as much drama in size as the Ito peonies would be the rhododendrons, which bloomed earlier, and the dinner plate dahlias, which bloom later, and hydrangeas as well. Now, normally that would be the only peony that I would say was my favorite one, but now it's kind of tied with Canary Brilliance. And the reason it's tied with Canary Brilliance, which is also an Ito peony, is because I discovered this year that you can get a second flush of the Canary Brilliance. And I did get a second flush. I got the second flush in, let me just look at my pictures here. The second flush, this bouquet of the second flush, which I'll show you in a minute, was on August 6th, which is just wild. I mean, the Bartella bouquet was done on June 8th, which is June, July, August, 2 months before. So you get your peonies blooming end of May, beginning of June, and then to have, well, I only had one, but I'm hoping next year I'll have more than one, and to have a second flush of them in August. Wow, who could ask for anything more? And apparently it's only the Canary Brilliance that will do that second flush. Now, if you look at this picture, you'll see that it shows it in two different colors, and that's the same flower will showcase each color depending what stage of its life it's at. So that's kind of cool. Now the bouquet, you've seen this many times on my channel because I just love showcasing it, the one that was on August 6th. It's paired here with the Firelight Hydrangea, the purple marjoram, the gold light sunflowers, the green poppy pods, and that might be all that's in there. And yeah, I still, you know, it's months and months later and I still can't get over the fact that I had a peony blooming in August. So that's it for the peonies. Now the next top 10 flower of 2024 that we're going to talk about is one that should, if you've been following my videos at all, you should know that this is a very obvious one, and I'm going to pair them together. It's the Ambassador Allium and the Globemaster Allium. Now both the Ambassador and the Globemaster were new for me for this year, and man, did they ever just fill in that little tiny hole that I needed of an impact flower. They were fantastic. I absolutely loved using them in bouquets. And they created a bridge between the peonies and whatever comes after the peonies. We'll look at the bouquets to see what I've got them paired with. So here you can see I've got them paired with anemones, actually. I've got a Bordeaux up at the top. I've got a sylphide down at the bottom, an orange and a white tucked in between them, and a red one. What's that red one called? Can't remember. I'll have to put the name up on the screen, off to the one side. In the back, you can actually see there's also a hair allium and a black button, bachelor button poking out the top, as well as some parsley umbels, if I did not say that before, and of course the laurel leaves that I like to wrap the base of the bouquets in. So this bouquet was taken on June 18th, and this next bouquet was taken on June 29th, and here I've got it paired with snapdragons. So the snapdragons here I have Legend Light Pink, which is taking on almost that slightly purpley hue from the allium that's in the center. I also have Orleans Early Lemon, which is of course the yellow one. There's a hair allium poking up to the side, a black button, bachelor button also poking up behind it. I have some white astilbe off to the side, and I do not have any laurel leaves on this particular bouquet. So with the Ambassador or the Globe Master alliums, I use them all as a center down low and then have all the other flowers sort of pushing up around it. Because it's such a large ball, you can't really put it too much off to the side of a bouquet. Like you could use 3 of them, and you wouldn't want to use 3 of them. One is plenty. So after the alliums comes sunflowers. Now my favorite sunflower of the season is the Gold Light, and that's the orange, yellowy orange one with the pale disc in the center that just has a hint of green in it, rather than the dark center, which is the orange. I much prefer the Gold Light with just the light center. And I grew 4 different sunflowers this year. The orange that had the dark center, and the white light, and the white night, which you saw in a previous bouquet. But I will say that this Gold Light is my favorite out of all of the out of all of those 4 sunflowers. And so I'm only going to show you bouquets that have that one in it. Well, they may have others with it, such as this particular bouquet, which I took on June 28th, and I've got it paired with the white light. Here too, there is a black button, bachelor button poking up the top. You can just see one stem of a bridal veil white astilbe. They've got the hair allium. You've got an allium in the center, which is starting to lose its purple tone and is just starting to go more to that greeny white shade, but it's kind of in between still. And of course the laurel leaves wrapped around the bottom. Next to it, I've got this bouquet, which was taken on July 25th. I'm going to show you sunflowers bouquets, 1 per month. So we just did June, and this is July. Excuse me. And I've got it paired with a Wanda's Aurora dinner plate dahlia, which has the same sort of tones in it, although it goes slightly yellow in its orangey parts and slightly more burnt orange in its deeper parts. You've got the purple marjoram up the top. It looks like I have a labyrinth dinner plate dahlia just off to the side, which is those sort of pinky rose hue tones. And I have, are those laurel leaves? I think they are, around the bottom. Oh, and there's some green poppy pods tucked in the center, as well as some parsley umbels in there. So that's the July bouquet. And then in August, this bouquet, I've got the Gold Light sunflower paired with, above it on the one side, is Lindsay Michelle dinner plate dahlia, which is the one that has the yellow donut, where the center of the donut and then the outside of the donut are the fuchsia color. I have an AC Loomis dinner plate dahlia, which is the sort of magenta one with the white frosting on it. I have quite a few black button bachelor buttons in there. Green poppy pods. I have purple marjoram as well as white marjoram and the laurel leaves around the base. So that's the August bouquet with it. Now we move on to September. And here I've got it paired with Thomas Edison dinner plate dahlia, which is the big purple one. I have what looks like white, only white marjoram in here with it. It looks like there's a tartan dinner plate tucked around the side because it's purple and white. Lots of Costa Silver snapdragons up the top, as well as some snowdrift double click cosmos, and of course the laurel leaves around the bottom. And then I don't have any sunflower bouquets for October because they finished before October started. I think I'm going to do, and this year I did one more succession from the previous year, and I succession every week. I think next year I'm going to do one more succession, and then if they're still all okay, the following year I'll do another one as well. Now the thing I noticed with my last succession this year, which sort of came online towards the end of September, is our daylight hours are of course shrinking in 2 ways. One, because sunset and sunrise are much earlier or later, and so the day itself is much shorter, but we're also entering a lot more rain and heavy cloud, which reduces the amount of sunlight as well. So my last succession this year, the tallest sunflowers were probably only about 3 feet tall. And that's where I have to take into account where the cutoff to grow the sunflowers is not because they won't bloom, but because they get shorter and shorter and shorter as the daylight hours decrease, and the flower heads themselves get smaller and smaller and smaller. So whereas I may have, with my planting of 5 to 5.5 inches, I should have a 5-inch diameter sunflower head. By the time we get to the end of September, even the diameter of the flower heads is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And some of the very last ones, you know, the flower heads were only like maybe 1.5 inches in diameter. So sure, they're still blooming, but they're not very useful. But I am going to try one more later succession next year. So after, what was I just talking about? Sunflowers. After the sunflowers come snapdragons. Now, the Orleans Early Lemon I grew last year and I really, really loved. And so for the first time I had a snapdragon that I liked. In all previous years I hadn't liked any of the snapdragons that I trialed out, and they made my worst cut flower lists for 2 years in a row. But because I liked Orleans Early Lemon, I took a cue from it. It was a pale color. And so I ordered 2 other pale colors to use this year. One was the Costa Silver, which you saw in a bouquet earlier, which had it was pale, but it had quite a definite pink to it with just a slight lavendery hue to it. And I also trialed Costa Silver, which is this one that I'm going to put up here. It's very much like Legend Light Pink, but it doesn't have as strong a pink in it, which made it way more versatile. It almost acts like a neutral because it has almost a pale brownie pink tone to it. So of the 3 snapdragons that I grew this year, it became my most useful one, which made it my favorite one. Now, the interesting thing about the snapdragons is everybody talks about them for use in the early summer or late spring. Let's look at the first bouquet and see what the date of that is when they were coming out. I think I showed you one already with the alliums. So this one I have, it's with Yarrow, and it was taken on June 26th. So that would be very early summer, which means I did have some in the late spring as well. Very, very late spring. And here you can see I've got the Costa Silver in the front of the bouquet. There's a Legend Light Pink off to the side and the Orleans Early Lemon in the back. And you can see that the Legend Light Pink, Legend Light Pink? Costa Silver, Legend Light Pink. Yeah, was I calling it Costa Silver? It's Legend Light Pink. Is slightly pinker than it. So it has a more defined color to it. The Yarrow is, I don't know the name of that sort of terracotta yarrow, and I've forgotten the name of the red one, and I'd have to go out into the garden and look at the label, which I'm not going to do. So it's a red yarrow. And oh, that's vintage red. That's right, because it's got the shorter stems. That's why it's down lower. It's vintage red. And as beautiful and as sturdy and as strong as my snapdragon stems were late spring, early summer, that is not when they were the most useful to me. I actually found them really, really useful in the fall. Now, unfortunately, I didn't know if I would find them useful in the fall, and I needed space for some of my sunflower successions towards the end. So I removed the Legends Light Pink and the Orleans Early Lemon to make room for sunflowers, and I left the Costa Silver. So I only had the Costa Silver for the fall. And the bouquets that the Costa Silver are in, this particular one was taken on August 30th. Okay, that's still summer, late summer. I've got it paired with a tartan dinner plate dahlia, which is the purple and white one. I have some Snowdrift double click cosmos coming out the top, and I have some white sunflowers, whether they're white night or white light, I don't know, also coming out around the top, and the laurel leaves around the bottom. And you can see that added texture of the snapdragon at that time of year is really, really useful, because the full head of the dahlias, the sunflowers, and the cosmos, they all have a roundness to them, but the snapdragon has that nice spike to it. So yeah, I actually was more excited about using them in the late summer, early fall than I was about in the spring, and yet I was very excited about using them in the spring. This next bouquet was taken on September 9th, and here you can see I've got the Costa Silver Snapdragon paired with a white night sunflower, a Sparticus dinner plate dahlia, which is the deep dark red that matches the red of the espresso gladiola. I have some Rose Bonbon double click cosmos, which are the pink ones poking out the top, as well as a white one facing the back, which is the Snowdrift double click cosmo, and the laurel leaves. So that's a September bouquet with the Legends light pink in it. And I was still even getting them in October. So in this particular bouquet, I have 2 Sparticus dinner plate dahlias, and you can see with October coming into play, this was on October 17th, the Sparticus dinner plate dahlias is starting to get a little bit of almost an orange stripe into it, which is interesting. I don't remember it doing that in any other year, and this is I think the 3rd year that I've grown Sparticus. That's interesting to me. Anyway, the Snapdragon also has paired in there a white flower. Is that, I don't know what that is. Is that a Cosmo, or is that a Snow Princess Cactus Dahlia? Don't know. It looks like it's got a red lemon sunflower off to the one side, just because the color at the back of the petals, you can see it's more of a lemony yellow than the orange of the orange sunflower off to the other side. I have some of the dried astilbe at the top, as well as the dried poppy pods and the laurel leaves around the bottom. And that, I put this picture because I think that is the last bouquet that had a Snapdragon in it. And again, that was on October 17th. I am definitely going to be cutting back all of my Snapdragons and keeping all of them for the fall, because I think that will be fantastic to have the use of those, of all the colors in the late summer and early fall. Now, I just accidentally closed my pictures off, so now I gotta, there we go. What's next? We have, next on my list, we have a hydrangea, which is the Firelight. I bought that this year, and I bought it in August. And I bought it because here where I live in the Pacific Northwest, we have acidic soil, so hydrangeas tend to be blue. People don't have pink. I know if you have lime soil, all your hydrangeas are pink, and you can't get a blue hydrangea, and if you could, you would love it. Well, here it's the other way around. All of our hydrangeas tend to be blue. So to have a pink hydrangea is unusual, and hydrangeas are common in people's yards here. So putting a blue hydrangea in a bouquet is not as exciting as putting a pink hydrangea in a bouquet. So I really loved these Firelights. It's a panicle hydrangea, and I'm definitely happy to have that as a new addition to my cut flower garden. And like I said, I bought it in August, so the first bouquet isn't until August 5th, because I bought it at the beginning of August when the our local Campbell River Garden Center brought in their load of hydrangeas for sale. And I've got it paired here with a gold light sunflower, purple marjoram, green poppy pods, and laurel leaves. And I just think the Firelight hydrangea dances around in the bouquet as much as the purple marjoram gives that dance of white to purple in it. And it adds so much movement in with that bouquet that I am really, really happy to have that to use in bouquets from this August forward. The Firelight hydrangea, as the season progressed, started to go from whites and pale pinks to more of a deeper rose color. And this particular bouquet was taken on September 2nd. So you can see down at the bottom is the Firelight hydrangea, and it's much rosier in tone. And it really matches the color of the Labyrinth dinner plate dahlia that's up above it. And then I've got the White Light and the White Night sunflowers, as well as some Snowdrift double click cosmos, and a Costa Silver Snapdragon poking up the top there as well, and the laurel leaves around the bottom. So the next flower we're going to talk about is one that in previous years I only used for the foliage. Nope, we're not going to talk about the flower that I mainly grew for foliage before, because I am coming back a few hours later after watching my video clips and realizing I completely missed dahlias. So when I lost my place in the flowers, I pulled it back over to whatever the last one was that I talked about, having skipped completely over dahlias. And clearly dahlias are going to make my top 10 flowers of 2024, specifically Sparticus, which is a dinner plate dahlia with an 11-inch bloom in the summer. Now the first bouquet I'm going to show you is one of them from July, and it's July 15th, and it was a custom bouquet that I created using the Sylvia Ball dahlia, the white White Night Sunflower, because it's got the dark center on it. The full-headed Shasta Daisy with the frizzy little petals on it. Forget the name, I'll put it up on the screen. Sweet Peas, Green Poppy Pods, and Borage, which is the little blue flowers poking out to the top. Now that's the July bouquet I'm going to show you. So the August bouquet, it's paired here. The Sparticus dinner plate dahlia is paired here with the very first gladiola of the season. Of my espresso gladiolas. And this photo was taken on August 13th. I've also got it paired with, I believe that's white marjoram. Might be purple just in the light shade, but I'm pretty sure that's the white marjoram. A white night sunflower off to the one side, and probably an orange sunflower off to the one side. It's not white at all. And another one off to the other side. There is laurel leaves around the bottom, and I believe that's all I can see in this particular bouquet. So then if we go to September, this particular bouquet is paired with a white light sunflower, a Keith H. water lily dahlia up top, a beautiful decorative dahlia below the sunflower. We have snowberries cupping around the beautiful dahlia, as well as up above the Keith H. water lily dahlia. And there is a Snow Puff Double Click Cosmo off to the side as well, and of course the laurel leaves. The October bouquet I'm going to showcase was taken on October 8th, and here I've got dried Astilbe, dried poppy pods, rose bonbon double click cosmos. I have a Yarra Falls, a dinner plate dahlia off to one side, which is also the deep red with the white tips. I have what looks like a red lemon sunflower off to the one side because it's slightly more lemony in shade. You can see an orange sunflower just poking behind the Sparticus. There is a Costa Silver Snapdragon and the laurel leaves around the bottom, and there's something pink that I can't tell what it is around the bottom too. So that's the dahlias. Now let's get back to where I was before. So the next flower we're going to talk about is one that in previous years I only used for the foliage. In fact, it has made my top 10 green fillers or foliage fillers list for, I didn't do one of those the previous year, but certainly this year, because I've always cut the flowers off and used the foliage for it. And that's the Cosmos, because I really like that spiky green foliage. And I deadhead them so that I get really good, thick, nice quality stems and foliage off of them for the fall, because that's when I want to use that foliage. But this year, at some point or another, life got in the way and I didn't deadhead them, and they started blooming, and I was using them in the bouquets with the blooms. It turns out I really love using them in the bouquet with the blooms. It also turns out that they have the double clicks anyway, have really good vase life. I did do a test. I can't remember what it ended up being, but the vase life was good enough that it lasted longer than my dinner plate dahlias, which meant it was perfectly fine to use in my dinner plate dahlia bouquets. Now I only grew the 2 colors this year because they're the ones I can get locally, and really I was growing it for the foliage anyway. And I couldn't get large packets of seeds from the garden center here, and to order them and pay the shipping didn't make any sense, so I just ordered one of each color just because, which was the Rose Bonbon and the Snowdrift. And I will say that the Rose Bonbon Double Click Cosmo was my favorite out of those 2, which is really surprising to me because I am not a pink person. I thought the white would be the preferred color, but for some reason this year white wasn't a color that I was as excited about as I was last year. And I was more excited about the color pink this year than I was last year. So the Rose Bonbon Double Click Cosmo was my favorite of those 2 colors that I purchased. And I used it quite a bit in bouquets. I used the white ones too, but I was more excited to use the pink ones. And in this first bouquet, you can see, this bouquet was taken on September 5th. And you can see I've paired it with Keith H. Water Lily Dahlia. Just underneath it is a gold light sunflower. I have my Costa Silver Snapdragons. I have what looks like a Cafe au lait rose dinner plate dahlia off to the side. And you can see I am actually using some of the foliage of the cosmos up the top as well. I mean, you can see how that foliage is just so pretty, pushing forth from a relatively round bouquet. And of course the laurel leaves down around the bottom. But as beautiful as that foliage is pushing through the top, those little round balls of petals of the Rose Bond double click Cosmo is really quite stunning within the bouquet. So the combination of using it both as stem foliage as well as for flowers, perfect. This next bouquet was taken on October 23rd. And I've got this one paired with the dried astilbe, the dried poppy pods, another Keith H. water lily dahlia. I've got Sparticus, the deep red dinner plate dahlia off to the side. It looks like I have a what is Kenora Macop B dinner plate dahlia off to the other side because it's got spikier petals. And I've got it corralled with the laurel leaves as well. And that's my list of top 10 flowers for 2024. There's two that should have been on the list but wasn't. One was my camellias, and the reason they're not on the list is because last winter we had one extremely cold night. We went down to -17 Celsius. And for the first time, the flowers got affected by the winter because of that one cold night. They were sparse, as in not that many. They were small, as in they weren't big, almost dinner plate size. They were quite small, and they were very brittle. So if you touched them, they kind of just like broke off the stem. So I couldn't use them at all. So that's why they didn't make my 2024 list this year. The other one that really should have made my list but didn't is the Gladiola Espresso. And it didn't make the list because I planted 80 corms and I only got about 12 blooms. So as much as I loved it, the failure rate on it was far too high. And I'm hoping that, of course, I've saved the corms. I just dug them up a couple of days ago because we appear to be going down to 1 degree tonight, according to the weather forecast. And if we're going down to 1 degree Celsius, which by the way is 34 degrees Fahrenheit, there's a good chance that we might get a little colder and we might actually get our first killing frost. I wanted to get the glad corms up before that. Saved them all. I will plant them all again next year. And hopefully I will get more than a return of 12 flowers on all the corms. So you never know, it might make my top 10 flowers of 2025. We shall wait and see. Now at the beginning of this video, I talked about my hyacinths, literally at the beginning, because that was the first one, because it was the first blooming flower of the season for me. And I talked about how I sold all the pots and it was profitable for me. So if you want to see the breakdown of the costs of growing hyacinths up in 1 gallon pots and getting them out to the Flower Wagon and how profitable they were for me, you should really check out this video here. See you next week. Bye, and thanks for watching.